the redemptive historical setting, as most people know that have read Acts or are familiar with it, is Jesus, Luke Acts picks up where Luke ends, written by the same author, with Jesus still present. He is yet to ascend and to be taken up into heaven. And we are told in chapter 1 of Acts that he is on the earth, or appearing to several of his disciples and many others over a 40-day period. So that would link his appearances after his resurrection with his death, which was during the time of the Passover. And Pentecost, or the Feast of the Harvest, or Festival of the Harvest, typically occurred on the Jewish calendar 50 days after the Passover. So it's intriguing that we have this 40 days that Jesus is there. He then tells his apostles and to go back to Jerusalem and to wait until they receive power from the Holy Spirit, basically, that you will receive power. The Holy Spirit will come upon you. You will be my witnesses. And then you have, Acts 1:7, as I believe it's chapter 7, or verse 7, as the sort of key or the frame for the whole book of Acts. Verse 8, but you will receive power when the Holy Spirit comes upon you to be my witnesses, both in Jerusalem and Judea, Samaria, and even to the remotest parts of the earth. He is then taken up into heaven. They go back and do as he instructed, and it is on the day of Pentecost, so presumably 10 days later, which would be the festival of the harvest, of the firstfruits. You have this extraordinary event that happens where they're all 120 are gathered together, all together, including the apostles, and all of a sudden, this great rushing wind, as you know, and flames of fire appear over their head. They begin speaking in foreign languages, declaring the praises of God. They're gathered for the feast of Pentecost, and people hear them, devout Jews from all over who've made this pilgrimage. And the pilgrimage it was to celebrate the Feast of the Firstfruits, the end of the harvest, to come to bring your tithes and offerings, to present to God in view of gratitude for his provision, as well as thankfulness, even remembering the Exodus, remembering what their ancestors went through. And so it's all connected there, and they hear these people that have come from all over the then known world hearing the praises of God in their own languages. And they're like, what is this? Right. And they think he's drunk. And he says, no, they're drunk, all the people, Right. It's not even that hour, the correct hour to be drunk, if you will.
As if you couldn't drink.
Gotta wait a little longer.
But he then begins to boldly preach, and we have to remember he's now filled with the Spirit himself. So what he's preaching is Spirit-filled words, and the Spirit gives him that utterance to link this event, this phenomena, with what Joel promised in chapter 2, in the latter days, which would be the Messianic age, the age of the new covenant, right? In the latter days, he says, no, I'm not drunk. We're not drunk. It's not that. It's this. This is what is occurring, the fulfillment of the prophecy of Joel. And it's men, women of various classes now, having to get their prophecy ecstatically, being able to declare the praises of God in languages that were not known to them. That phenomena is what happens there on the Feast of Pentecost. And I just saw in my essay, I didn't dwell too much on the Joel passage as much as I dwelled more, or didn't even dwell, I just sort of in bypassing thought about, if you're celebrating the first fruits of the harvest, which was an agrarian festival in thanksgiving to God, here you have the first fruits, because you have that idea of ingathering. You have 3,000 souls that are added to the number through that first sermon that Peter preaches. And so it's an ingathering of souls. And that was sort of my connection to that particular redemptive historical setting.